welcome to the Mysidian Legend podcast. My name is Alex Scott, and I'm joined each week by David. Say hello, David.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Mysidian Legend.
If it's your first time listening, each week we cover our locals experience, including our deck lists and how we can improve our play in the future. And if we have extra time, or maybe we didn't make it out to locals, then we'll highlight different cards or decks that we are working on with, or anything else that we're doing. So before we get started, I'll just mention our awesome deal for the listeners. If you shop at Cards at Ulysses for your singles, you can get a discount with the promo code PORUMPALUM10, and when you do that, it shows that you support the Mysidia Post, and it gets you a nice discount on your order. So that promo code is PORUMPALUM10. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about our locals experience this week. I ended up running a mono fire deck instead of the deck that I'm testing for Reunion, and David also had a dilemma.
Yeah, really didn't know what to play, really struggling right now. So I kind of sold out, and I just went with the old Wind Water.
So you played some Weewalt, but what was your other choice that you had?
So what I initially had built and was ready to walk into locals with was a Water Ice Une deck that comboed off of Une and starter deck Garnet, who would play Bismarck and then bounce herself and then play the 1 CP Kukulane from Opus 10, I believe, for power reduction. So then power would get reduced to 0 and I would draw a card off of it. Played one game before locals started and trashed it. I was like, you know what, I'm not having fun. This is dumb. This isn't working the way I want. Good thing I had a backup, though.
Yeah, so there was a few misunderstandings on Une and how the card works. So I think that was part of your decision, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, this card is so great. It's OP. Like, let's go. And then you can only use it once and on your turn.
Yep, I went through the same thing.
This is dumb.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about our lists before we get into the matches. So we'll start with me.
So, by the way, by mono fire, he means mono fire with splashes of ice and dark.
Yep, so this deck runs the Ifrita package and looks to use Chaos Mobius as a board clear with some upside with the discard and stuff. So we use Chaos, the backup Chaos, so there's Chaos Mobius and Chaos, and Class 2nd Moogle to supply some ICP for your Chaos Mobius and for your a Lastwell, or 2 Lastwell, and 2 Genesis. So it's a super versatile deck because it has some of the closeout mechanics of Ice, as well as a big board clear in Chaos Mobius, and when you get your ICP going with Chaos Mobius, he can also make your opponent discard, and if you use Lightning CP with Chaos, the backup, you can make your opponent select and destroy a monster, but you already can deal with monsters quite easily with Ifrita, so it's got a lot of utility in a fast and powerful deck. So I'll just quickly go over my little packages that I've labeled here. So we've got a ramp package to get your backups out. So we have Marsh, Camlanaut, and Dominion Legionary. And if you don't know Dominion Legionary, he's a 4 CP backup that searches himself. So you run 3 of them and you search the first 2, or you play the first 2 and then you pitch the third for CP, and it guarantees you get backups quickly. There's a draw package. We've got Marsh, of course, again, and then Terra to bring back your summons, Nail to draw forwards, and then I even have a 3-cost Rain to search for Fritz, and then Fritz will search for Ifrits, and it's a nice little chain that helps me kind of start cycling through my deck quickly in the early game. So I really like that addition of just 1 Rain and 2 Fritz, and nice and easy, no complaints. Lots of removal. So we've got 3 types of Ifrits with 3 Ifritas as well. That's 8 summons total. 2 Vermilion Bird Lasika Ktunas. Obviously the Chaos Mobius, Vivi, 5 CP Cloud, Nail, Shadow backup, Ace backup. It's just a boatload of removal. And then we even have a little bypass package for closing out games in the form of Red Mage and Yotsuyu for unblockables, and your Genesis Laswell for dull freezes. The final piece of the deck is the beater package, as I call it. That's our big boys. So we've got Bergen, 3 CP, can only be played off fire backups. Lise for power-ups. Aroha for kind of damage ups. Guy as a 3 CP Brave with some upside on his Enter the Break Zone ability, and then Lebro the backup to make all of your fire forwards nice and big.
Yeah, I never really considered how powerful Ifrita would be until we played a couple matches. I knew it was good, but I didn't know how good it could be because I just assumed modal, like it was going to be good. But the fact that it's 7k or 10k to one forward and then break a monster as well when you completely set her up, goodness.
Yeah, and
goodness.
That happens most games. By the end of the game, Ifrita is ready to go, and because we're running 3 Terras, you can fish them back when you need them, and yeah, pretty overall pretty good list.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely like the ice inclusions. Do you ever think about whipping up a Phoenix and throwing in the 3 CP Squall we just got?
Yeah, I think so. It's the really tough part about it is finding the room for that summon. So I actually did have the 3 CP Squall in the list, and I took it out because generally this deck was getting ahead of other people. So I thought, okay, this could be a 3 CP Genesis in a way, but Genesis is always Genesis, and Genesis has the upside.
Genesis is always Genesis.
Yeah. He's got the upside too of the on damage effect, and I've got things that make it so people can't block, so that's really handy as well. The Squall isn't live right away, but I also have to figure out, I have to cut Ifrits or something, right? Like you cut forwards, then Nail becomes worse. You cut Ifrits, then Ifrita becomes worse, and then all of a sudden the Frit and Rain package becomes worse. So it's a really delicate balance of how to fit in these cards, but I've definitely thought about that package.
Right. You also have a Mysidian War Mech. You want to talk about what you do with that?
Yeah, so that's just to increase the damage that anybody's going to do in combat. It's going to increase the damage. Chaos Mobius can become a 7k board clear on his own. And this deck ramps to 5 backups quite easily, so it's very easy to play Chaos and then use the Mysidian War Mech's ability or an Ifrita. But I'm actually probably going to cut that card and put something else in. It's just such a fun card to play with, and this deck is really focused for me on having fun.
Yeah, having fun. No kidding. No, it looks like a fun list. I kind of thought about dabbling in Monofire, but I just haven't done that yet. And this might be a list that I might build off of for my own. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's actually competitive. Like I've beaten multiple meta decks with it, and like it's a fine list, and it's just a nice change up from the Ice Earth that I've been playing a lot of.
It's a nice change after the Weewas, for sure.
Exactly. Okay, so why don't we get into your Weewa list next?
All right. Well, you're not going to find a lot of surprises here. I'm running both Porums, the 2-drop, get the summon back, and the 4-drop draw cards. Otherwise, it's a pretty basic Weewa list. Pains, your Stola, Citra, Ash, Tidus, Ico. Okay, there's 2 cute things that I do because this is who I am. I have the 5 CP Ico to search up Famfrits specifically, but if they have to search up a Diabolos or a Veilfor or something, then can't go wrong with that either. And then you play that Famfrit for a 2 cost because you got Una down, and then you draw a card off it. So that's not terrible. She ends up being a 1 cost if you do all the math, right?
I like that.
Yeah, it's not terrible. And then I play the 4 CP Zidane rather than the 3 CP. Now, everyone's going to say, that's stupid, but my thought process behind it is that he's such a threat once he's down. Because you play the 3 CP, right? And then you look at your opponent's hand and you pick a thing and it's gone. Great. That's a total ice card. But you play the 4 CP and then they start to panic. And then they're like, okay, well, I got to get these forwards out or else they're just going to keep getting yeeted from my hand. So they play all their forwards that they can when they don't want to. They end up overextending. Pull off a Fina Veilfor combo right there, and it's just devastating for your opponent, and it's tough for them to come back from that.
I never thought about that application of when someone plays that Zidane, they do want to throw their hand up onto the board just viciously, and it kind of
Forward,
like
yeah, exactly. They
it's
walk
kind of
their
like how
forwards
Scale
out.
Toad and Shantoto work together.
Yeah, exactly. You get see scale toad, so you're like, okay, well, I just don't want to ditch my cards for nothing. So you end up trying to maneuver around, always having one card in your hand and playing off that. So you end up throwing up your hand onto the board, and yeah. So they panic. If you can deal with that and have a board clear ready, it can be tough for them to come back from that.
Yeah. So anything
And
else? You got the Death Case 9, of course. You got to have that 9 card.
but of course, yeah, Veil 4, Famfrit, Diabolos, Death Gazer, Summons. And I just feel so like unenthused about this deck and this list because as I said, I feel like I'm selling out. Yeah, Yuna, Riku, Mion, Ninja, Pinello, Brother, Bart, and one Artemisian just to fix up those less than ideal hands. But yeah, that's the list.
Okay. Well, if we have our lists, then let's get into the matches. So first up, my round 1 was versus Ice Fire 6, and it was a pretty good match. They had a turn 1, 2/6 backups into a lock the next turn, so making me discard and getting right after me. After this initial pressure, I was able to play a Lastwell to counter, but my opponent then played their own Lastwell and started dull freezing my stuff. It was looking pretty bad. I had a clutch Ifrit X-Burst to kill their Lastwell, and then I just started throwing more and more removal at my opponent, killing lock, killing whatever, just pinging it all off, and then getting out on board myself, and then closing it out with more Dull Freeze the Genesis and other cards like that to just kind of ramp up and like nail to get. I think I nail hasted to close out the match, and that was that.
Wow, you sure nailed him.
Good comment. Thanks for sharing that.
I'm the color commentating guy. This is what I do.
Yeah, so that was it was a nice win, especially early. I thought like, oh my goodness, this is why this deck might not be that competitive because I'm just getting out-resourced and discarding cards, but I was able to kind of push through with all the firepower the deck had, which was nice. So it worked out.
For sure. The more commitment to your fire, I think, outweighs his commitment to the ice part, which Ice Fire has obviously been it's been a competitive deck, but with what you got going on, you got Genesis that's only a 7k, Lastwell's only an 8k, so that's like just on curve, and with no power boosters, it's just pretty easy for you to get rid of his stuff.
Yeah, exactly. There was a few turns I had to mind an Edgar that was untapped that could boost lock by 1,000 power, and I had to just make sure that I always had that 8k removal. Otherwise, I would get kind of stuck. If I cast an Ifrit for 7k or a 4 CP Ifrit for 7k, then I would get caught out. So it was good that I noticed that. How about your round 1?
My round 1 was against a Une deck, funny enough. And it was an Ice Earth Une. He had the same problem I did going into it because he tried to do Une on his turn, or on my turn, excuse me. And I was like, man, he can't do that. I found that out today too. So he had pretty much the same face that I did when I found out, and it just sunk. It's like, oh, so this deck isn't as cool as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
The game went. I had the game pretty well in hand. He played very conservative. He didn't want to lose any of his forwards to blocking, like pretty much anything. He didn't swing a lot, and it was just a typical wind-water thing. If they started to build up a big board, I would have an answer for it with a Fina Veil or something along those lines, or a Diabolos. He had one. Actually, this could have been pretty devastating near the end. I think I was at 5 damage, and this got kind of tough. He played a 8 CP Sephiroth, breaking my Yuna. I was like, oh, nuts, this sucks. And then he was able to cast a summon, can't recall what it was, I'm sorry, to flicker his Sephiroth again and break my Riku. And I'm sitting with a pain in hand, and I was like, oh, well, there goes that. So that sucks. So all of a sudden going from 5 backups and being perfectly set up to going to 3 backups and having a first strike on the board, it was an issue. I think I had all my Diabolos in the break zone already at that point. So eventually I was able to get a Citra or a Porm or something and fish that back out and was able to swing for a game.
Nice. Nice little win to start off your sellout road.
Yeah. See me at Worlds next year.
Okay, so my round 2 was versus this total sellout Weewa player named David, and luckily for me, the first little bit of the match, he didn't really play Weewa. He didn't play much at all. He opened quite poorly, actually, and I got off to a quick start. So we're looking at it like it's one of those matches. It's a foregone conclusion. But then I draw the majority of my backups, and when I get through drawing all my backups, I start to draw all 4 of my dark cards. I never got to put Chaos down until the end of the game. That's when I drew the Chaos. I actually put 2 Moogle second classes into the break zone with Nail, so I never got ICP, which was kind of tricky. So that all that time I spent drawing backups, my opponent actually EX bursted a Pain and was able to grab a Yuna, and then all of a sudden we got the Mion, we've got the Pain, we've got the reactivation, the draw. He plays 3 forwards, and I'm like just giddy. I have a Chaos Ifrita in my hand, and I'm just losing it. I'm gonna wipe his board and win the game next turn. And then he plays 1 more forward, and I'm like losing my mind. He's gonna play 1 more forward. This is too good. It's Y'shtola. It stops me from being able to board clear. And in the time that happens, David himself has multiple board clears with Pinello and Diabolos and Valfor and all those fun cards. So we kind of go all the way to the end of the game, and my hand is Chaos Cam and Chaos Mobius, and I have 5 backups and can't play the 2 CP Chaos at that point, and I deck out before I can close out the game.
That was a really tight game, though. Like, it was so... It started out so terribly for me, and then the middle was so terrible for you, and then it just kind of turned into a back and forth of trading each other's forwards. And then it just... I hate games that end on a deck out, because, like, okay, well, this doesn't really prove which deck was better, who played better. It just, I ran out of cards.
Well, you did a really good job of stabilizing, and made a lot of great decisions in terms of how to play out your hand and how to kind of combat my aggression. So I definitely have to give you a lot of props there.
You're being really sweet, but it's a Weewa deck. It plays itself.
Yeah, I mean, and so for me, not getting the ICP was pretty significant. There's a point where I just couldn't play last well. The Nail hitting 3 backups off the top of my deck was also fairly significant. Painful. Yeah, but overall, I felt really great that, it was just a competitive and fun match.
For sure. It's got to feel really good, too, when you kind of homebrew something like this, and then it goes against the best deck in the format, and you go toe-to-toe with it, and that's how it has to end. Like, that's got to feel pretty satisfying. Yeah,
and you know what? I mean, when you homebrew, especially a mono deck like Mono Fire, like it's the bottom of the bar of like your brewing ability. Like, I'm not some crazy deck builder. It's Mono Fire, but I was still very pleased with it.
Yeah, for sure, you should be. And there's your kudos. You built you took Mono Fire, and you were able to go toe to toe with championship winning deck.
Yeah, and the Ice Fire 6 is not a bad deck either. It's a very competitive deck. So.
No, for sure, and that kind of goes to our first match and my last match.
Yeah, exactly. So round 3, I played against another meta deck, Mono Ice, except it wasn't. It wasn't quite Mono Ice. I mean, it was a Mono Ice deck. I played against a new player that was visiting
and it definitely wasn't meta.
Yes, it was not a meta build. It was a new player from another town that was coming to visit their family for the holidays and brought their cards, and they play a lot of kitchen table. So there was lots of learning happening. It was super fun. And I actually had like a terrible opening. I had to go it was two cards into Lebro, and then the next turn was oh no, the first turn was three cards discarded into Cam into Chaos, and then Lebro the next turn, and then I played off Chaos and Lebro for the entire game. And because I had a Cam and it was mono ice, it was fairly easy to kind of close out. Played cards like Lease, and it was just it was a fun match. So ended up going 2-1 on the day and felt pretty good about it.
Yeah, and that mono ice cake. So obviously kitchen table player. I think this was like her first playing quasi competitive FFTCG. So what cards were we seeing? Like what? I'm certain she's not playing like 5 CP Kuja and Azure Dragon and that crazy stuff.
Yeah, there was lots of interesting card choices. Kuja 3 CP from Opus 3. I love that card.
Love that card.
It's quite slow. There was also the Arcanist backup that you pay 1 generic, 1 ice, and dull it. Choose a number that forward can attack. That actually bypasses Cam's ice immunity, and she was able to delay the game quite a long time by stopping my forwards from attacking every combat phase and then dulling and freezing the rest of them. So lots of Shivas and dull freezing and just kind of like a big mesh of stuff like Sid Randall and all sorts of different ice cards.
Goodness.
Yeah, Capricious Reaper was there. That was really awesome. I love that card. But basically a blast from the past.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. If we could go back to Opus 3 or Opus 4 and just have like a night where that's all we play, like pre-Opus 5, I would be so down.
People do that. Like there's a locals in the States somewhere that does they say what opus it's going to be, and you can either only build from that opus or that opus and before, and then they like choose different nights. They have a different list of which opuses you can use, and they put their lists up on FFDex. It's pretty cool.
I love that, actually.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. I mean, and maybe we'll be trying out that new Champions format in Vancouver at some point soon too, to try to shake things up.
Yeah, I'm down for that too. I mean, Commander is a lot of fun in MTG, so I don't see why it wouldn't be as fun here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, but we're not done with locals yet. We still have to hear from David about his third round match, which is sure to be a barn burner, the Sellout versus the Fire Ice 6-player.
No, just keep throwing me under the bus, why don't you? I feel bad enough. I don't need you making me feel worse. Okay, so yeah, play the Fire and Ice that you played in your round 1. It was actually pretty even to start the game. He was able to ramp up to four backups very quickly, and I was still kind of diddle-daddling, trying to get as set up as I possibly could. And then he played a Nail off of those 4 backups very early. I play a Citra, and I can't remember what I bounced back with it. It's kind of irrelevant. So then I play a Diabolos to... Maybe I got the Diabolos back. Whatever. Play the Diabolos to break Nail, and then he has 1 card in hand, I'm pretty sure. Maybe no cards. And he chooses to break 2 of his backups to kill the Citra. And I was like, well, that is an interesting decision. Because then kills the Citra. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just play another one. That's fine. Like, I don't want to have a bunch of Citras in my hand. Kills the Citra. Goes to his turn. Draws 2 cards. Doesn't play anything. So my turn. Starts swinging. And after that, it was just kind of tough for him to keep up. Because the thing with Wind Water is if they're more set up than you, and you even hinder yourself by doing something like that, and it gets that far, Windwater gets that far ahead, it's really tough to catch up. So I was just really, really able to just take the game from there, go 3-0, and win $12 in store credit. Woo.
Yeah, that's a pretty huge swing to break two backups to break a Citra. Like,
I couldn't
what?
believe it, honestly.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's part of this podcast is our listeners can learn from us. They can learn from our opponents. They can learn from anyone. Don't do what what happened there.
Do not. It's just not worth it.
It's funny when I play against Windwater. I always have these boards where it's like, oh, they have a Citra and a Pain, and I have this internal debate about which one would I rather them not play again, and that's how I decide which one to kill. It's usually Citra you kill. You'd rather them play a Citra than another Pain, but
that's probably a good idea. Yeah,
but you have to check their break zones and their damage, like, make sure there's not how many are in there and stuff, because it's just brutal. Like, same thing with Zidane. It's like, I don't want you to play any of these cards again. You're like, okay, break them so I can play them again. So
yeah, exactly. That whole Zidane thing I went on earlier. It happened in this game. I played the Zidane, and he just kind of throws up his hand onto the mat, and I'm like, okay, well, I planned for this. So Fina, Veil 4, a couple Pinello taps, clear board, and swung out for the win there.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Man, I didn't even see that Zidane when we played, but I think I would have been pretty scared of it too.
It's a good card. I had to order it from Amsterdam because nobody around here had it.
It's just so... It's so tough because that 3 CP1 is excellent as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the argument is obviously there that it's the better card, and I could probably lose that argument by saying the 4 CP1 is better. But if you can have something built up to follow up, here's my 4 CP Zidane. And then they're like, okay, here's all my forwards. So then, yeah, you follow up, clear their board, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, I think it's a good tech. I like that a lot.
All of a sudden, they're not discarding, but all of a sudden they're losing all their hand advantage and card advantage just to try and run around the Zidane, and sucks. Sucks to suck.
Okay, well, we're going to move on to improving our decks, and not that there's much to improve what we want, but let's get into it. Okay, so for my mono fire list, I'm just going to take Cam out and just have 2 Chaos Mobiuses and a Chaos Backup. The Chaos Backup just for a different source of color fixing that can also do the Lightning CP for Chaos Mobius, and then just the 2 Mobius for fun. But the Cam it's not needed, and I don't want too many dark cards. I'm having a rough relationship with dark cards in my life right now.
They're so toxic, you should just cut them out of your life.
Yeah, just cut Cam right out of my life. Mm-hmm. So I'm also going to cut the Warmech, even though it has seen use, like I've used it multiple times, but I'm actually going to put in the daddy of fire cards. Like, this is the best fire card around. Royal Ripeness. Okay? This thing cannot be pinged by WAF. Can't happen, right? It is untargetable most of the time. There's so little 5 CP monster removal going around, and I ramp back up, so I have CP to pay for it. It's turned into a forward ability, and most importantly, it swings and does 3k to the board, and then all I have to do is play a Chaos, and boom, 8k board clear. So, seems fine.
What are you going to replace Camelot with?
Oh, right. So that's the one I was actually going to ask you about. So if you still have my lists available to you, sir.
Yeah. I honestly think that if you played, if you wanted to cut maybe Guy, I don't think you really need. I don't think it did a lot for you. I think if you cut Camelot and Guy and you wanted to go the Zach route, that could be fun.
Just for the 4K pings?
For the 4K pings. That's a lot of pings.
Yeah, I just don't have that many. Like, VV will combo with him and Cloud, that's about it. And like everybody else will do 4K, but I don't play that many forwards in a row. It's worth trying though. That's like not a bad idea. And I can always try so I just had a Bergen in there. And Bergen's not as good as I thought. So Bergen says you can only pay with CP produced by fire backups to play Bergen from your hand to the field. That's not so bad. When just a quick note, Chaos can actually play Bergen. So when Bergen blocks or is blocked, deal 7,000 damage to the forward that is blocked or that blocks him or is being blocked by Bergen. And then he has a fire generic, choose one forward, deal 1,000 damage. He's an 8,000 power forward, so he's actually anything that he would deal 7,000 damage to, he would then beat in combat. So where does this help? It helps you hit things without going into combat. No Belias combat tricks. It pings off smaller forwards. It helps you trade up. It helps you combo with that 7k so that Bergen never has to see combat for bigger forwards. But it's like when you read the ability when the card was spoiled, it looked absolutely insane. But it actually is just a very fair effect that requires a lot of work to work with.
Yeah, but at worst, when you get LeBro out, he's a 3 CP 9k.
Oh, so absolutely, yeah. So I actually had him at 2 right now
yeah.
in my updated list, but I think 1 is probably fine.
I think 1's probably fine, yeah. It's a good card, but it's not, we need to see this 2-3 times a game, you know?
So if I am going to put in a couple of Zacks, then maybe there's room to get like a Furion in here somewhere, or maybe even another Vivi.
Gotta go with the Vivis. More 9 cards, man.
Yeah, I know, yeah. I just the EX burst is nice too, but cool. Okay, well, those are some good suggestions, and I'm probably going to act on some of them, but we'll get to that in the future. Coming up next week, I've got one more locals, and then I'm off to Florida to play in the reunion tournament, which is pretty exciting.
You're going to, I'm assuming you're going to play Ice Earth one more time, just to get that last practice in?
Yeah, I'll play Ice Earth next week, and then we'll probably do a late podcast the following week, so I can talk all about reunion on the podcast. But I've changed my Ice Earth yet again. I won't go into the details on this podcast, but I basically played 2 matches against Yuta after locals against his Rampier. I've had a really terrible record against Rampier, so I need more practice. And the first game, opening hand, no backups, mulligan hand, no backups. Start playing the game, have to play like a turn 1 forward. He ramps to 5, and we're both looking at each other, and we're like, let's scoop. Second game, again, no backups in opening or mulliganed hand. I'm running 18 backups, not even a Shantoto that I can't play, but like not even that. So Jesus. At that point, I'm like feeling really frustrated. So I'm like, let's play my mono fire so that I can kind of reset. Draw my opening hand for mono fire, no backups, mulligan, no backups. So I play like a frit turn 1, and then again I just lose. So at this point, we made some changes to my deck list, and I actually won 2 in a row after that against him. And it was a huge confidence boost for me. The deck did exactly what it was supposed to do, and that will be our our clickbait for the next podcast. You're going to be like, oh, what changes did he make? And we'll go over that
next week.
Yeah, so other than that, just I don't think there's that much else that we're going to talk about this week. Anything that you want to go over?
Yes, actually. So I'm just struggling a lot, and I feel like I've said this before, with what to play. I don't want to say that I'm not having fun, but I'm not having as much fun as I usually do with the game, and I'm looking for deck ideas. So if anybody has a cool deck idea that's maybe not the Wind Waters of the world, that's fine. Comment down below and give me a shout out, and I would love to see what kind of cool ideas that you guys have. I'm very okay with it being gimmicky or janky.
We lost you there for a quick second, but you said something about listener interaction, and I love it.
Oh, perfect. I wonder why that happened.
Yeah, so I know how you feel. There was a long period of me playing Mono Earth against Wind Water and Phil's Wind Water, and against all the Mono Ice and all these different things. And I made Prish decks, I made Yuri decks, I made dark decks with mono earth, and kind of actually pretty much exactly like how you would have gone through with your FF9. So, and there was a point where I got very, very frustrated, and I completely took off and went over to wind and played mono wind a bunch, and that got me over it. So I think the change can help sometimes.
Yeah, it's probably where I'm at after having such a poor showing at the Winnabox. And then, yeah.
That's fair.
So
that's
now,
natural.
I'm just frustrated with the FF9 now. And maybe next at Opus we're going to get a boost, because it kind of looks like it. But for now it's Wind Water, but I'd like to play something that doesn't make me hate myself. So yes, give me your ideas. Hit
awesome.
me up.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the listeners are going to do that. You know, we've got such a vibrant and active fan base, so hit us with it.
Please share this video or this podcast.
Okay, yeah, it's a video and it's a podcast. Okay, so exactly. That's going to be it. We're going to sign off.
All right, see y'all later next week.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to do my little spiel real quick. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening to this week's episode of the Mysidian Legend podcast. And don't forget to use that promo code BornPalm10 at cardsofrelease.com to get a discount on your order. And then check out the MysidiaPost.com and check me out on YouTube. And, you know, likes and subscriptions and all that kind of stuff helps. And I always thank FF Decks, because they're honestly the only site that does this, right? There's a French one that is not as good, and we would be in some trouble. So thank you so much, FF Decks. Awesome.
Yeah, FF Decks.
Okay, well, thank you so much for listening, Mysidians, and we'll see you next time.